All right, pleasant good morning. Welcome to a Degenerate Friday edition of the program here. People in South Florida bracing for the cold. Supposed to get down sub 40s here overnight and only climb into what, mid 50s during the day?
Days are supposed to get to like 50s, 60s. It's supposed to be like a northeastern, is that fall, I guess?
Oh, I'm perfectly okay with it. I really enjoy this kind of weather. It's real nice for the walk of life. And you keep telling yourself I should get outside more, and now is the time. I don't know about 37 degrees at night. Probably be staying home then, but nonetheless, a little change of pace, Loopy. Doesn't hurt anything once in a while. How many more of these do you think we have down here? Is this it before we get into this blast furnace that we are from about March on?
I don't know. We usually get stuff in February that'll come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
We just don't get a lot of this. Like when people try to complain, I'm like, something's mentally wrong with you. Like
It's invigorating, I find.
this is warm for up north. Like it's nice to actually have some cold. Like,
Yeah, once in a while. I mean, it's just nice. I was walking yesterday. It was absolutely fantastic. I was thinking, I need more of this. But anyway, we're getting it, and much more of an extreme version than we've had. Remember that? I can't remember what year. It had to be like 15 years ago or so, maybe a little bit longer, where we had that long, like 30, 40-day stretch of cold weather.
yeah, it was
People were going out of their minds. Iguanas were falling out of trees.
like in
Last time
April. It
people
was like
had-
all of April was like, and it was freezing. I remember I was
it was
working
cold.
at
Yeah,
Crazy,
no.
and they would have me. I was doing financial aid, but they would also have me help the phones when the ladies did their lunches, and it was like this open area inside, and it was all tile. And I remember I was wearing a suit, and I remember being freezing out of my mind, like in the middle of the afternoon. It was weird
Right,
indoor.
going outside and still being cold, and that was incredible that we had that long of a run of it. So I'm going to enjoy this little cold snap while we can. It's done some damage in the sporting world. Aqueduct Racetrack in New York, they may as well close down until the spring. They've been canceling cards right and left, so they're off for the weekend. Hurts my chances of maybe making a score because seems to be the one track that I'm able to hit with any level of consistency. Everything else is completely foreign to me. Just absolutely impossible to decode most of the equations there. Fairgrounds, forget about it. Gulfstream Park, I have great difficulty with, even though it's the hometown track. In terms of handicapping, now that doesn't mean that it's going to be the same for you. But
No, no,
New York, for some reason, I'm able to decode some of the things that are going on there, and so I'm missing that. It takes the one chance I have to cash a ticket away when I'm doing the screen to screen, and you have six bets going at the same time within a span of about 5 minutes. That's a good way to separate yourself from your money. All right, we managed to get through the week, Libby. I want to pat ourselves on the back a little bit. I don't know if it's good for the people out there. Maybe they're jonesing for Super Bowl talk, but there hasn't been too much of it. The latest development of any significance, I don't know what you make of this because it seems like it's far enough out there that it won't be a factor. Was that Drake May has been limited in practice, Libby, limited with a shoulder injury. I don't know that I saw any specification as to which shoulder it was. We did see him suffer any number of brutal hits in this last game against the Denver Broncos.
both games. That's the thing. The Texans defense did its job. It was just Stroud didn't like his defense. Like the last two games, people have said he's played poorly, maybe, or he's been annihilated. I mean, I haven't been on the bandwagon MVP Drake May.
I think he's right there.
Obviously, but I'm just saying, like, I haven't been on this. Where does he rank? I don't know. I don't know about all
He's
that.
either first or second as the MVP.
No, I'm talking about like where they were trying to do a Stroud and Jordan Love 2 years ago, where they try to put them in like the top 8 quarterbacks in the league, and obviously neither belongs there. Like, I don't know if I'm doing that with Drake May, but I'm not going to go the other way now. Like people have been like, oh, he's been dreadful. I'm like, yeah, he's also been like Ryan Tannehill his first 3 years. Like he's getting pressured almost every play, and he's getting hit almost every play. Again, I'm not a Patriot defender. That's just reality. Like both defenses did their jobs.
Yeah.
It's their offenses that didn't help out because the
Patriots, he takes off and runs. So when
he gets hit,
and he's not afraid to go out there, and he has a little Josh Allen in him, a little bit of that.
He's a big dude.
Swagger, that sort of reckless pirate type of swagger. And then on top of that, he was very adept. I mean, one thing I noticed about him, and this was true of Danny Boy, who wasn't the most mobile of quarterbacks, but he had those happy feet. Not happy feet. That would be probably a denigration to consider him happy feet. But he had good footwork in the pocket. He was able to. It's kind of like Roberto Duran. I often talk about that as being an excellent defensive fighter, even though he would get in there and try and engage in some kind of brutal slugfest. But he had that knack of just barely moving his head and deflecting punches and deflecting the power of anything that actually did make impact. May was very good at stepping in, good spots in the pocket, avoiding rushes, even when pressured during the regular season. That was something I noticed about him that seemed to really demonstrate an element of maturity that goes beyond just being a second-year quarterback in the league. So you're thinking maybe that had something to do with Josh McDaniel, maybe that had something to do with Mike Vrabel, but whatever it was, he was well schooled. All of a sudden, that's not working as well. Went against a couple of incredible defenses, though. Those were the two best defenses in the AFC, were they not? If you looked at Houston and Denver during the course of the year, dynamic defenses. And so he's done enough. I don't know. Is this sort of a Trent Dilfer performance in the playoffs where he's done enough not to have his team lose? And in key spots, he's come through. But
Yes.
an injured Drake May probably doesn't help the cause any for the New England Patriots. Can anybody, is Steve Grogan still there? Who's the backup quarterback? Steve
Grogan. I don't. They would.
50 years.
I don't know. I don't know. I'll look it up. I have no idea. That's a good question. He's
I'm
actually
sure I've seen a guy come in for May at least.
played all year. Well, they kicked ass a few games, so you would
Yeah.
think they would have put a backup in at some point. Yeah, I don't know.
Can't
I'll look
picture.
it up. But yeah, having issues, injury issues. Look, everyone's hurt at this year, but you don't want injury issues. That's not great, especially the Seahawks defense. I don't know where it ranks, but it's playing as good as the Texans and
Seahawks
Broncos defense.
looks impressive. Yes.
It's playing very aggressive. So
They
it's
take
not
the ball
easy to
away.
get.
I mean, they have a lot of interceptions. I think they have like 20
And
interceptions on here.
And this is the difference is in where Stroud, and it feels weird saying this if you think about 3 years ago, but where Stroud and the backup for the Broncos, no matter what the weather, are going to struggle. Darnold hasn't. So it's not only there's an elite defense that he has to face, but he can't just loaf and they do that crap that they did where, well, we'll just punt it every time because we have a 3-point lead we'll hold on to like it's 1971. Like the Seahawks score. Like the Seahawks offense is like a top 5 offense in the league. And you're going to have like good weather. It's a Super Bowl. They make sure that the weather isn't an issue. So
It could be, you never know what you're going to get in San
San
Francisco.
Francisco's not going to be snow. So
No, but it could be wicked rain and
rains and stuff.
all
But I'm
kinds of
saying
things.
like they can't just loaf. Like so the defense getting after him, he can't just sit back there and hope that they score 10. Like
Yeah.
this is going to be a very interesting contest. So I'm curious what the injury is and what the extent is because that it does play a role in what especially gamblers do. Like the line is at a weird place right now, and it hasn't really moved. Like
Stayed.
you were saying,
It's like
so
locked
like
in.
it's an interesting place, and his injury I would think would play a factor into what people would do.
4.5 has been the spread since the opening. I haven't seen any movement one way or the other. I haven't seen it go up or down a half a point even. The over-under total is at 45 and a hook. So not like they're expecting an overwhelming amount of scoring. And now that you forecast that the weather is going to be okay, I'm assuming it's going to be one of those weird things.
I mean, look and see.
So, I mean, what was the line? My worst winter was a summer day in San Francisco.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just never know what you're going to get there. But let's hope it's played under good conditions because you hate to see the conditions and or weird circumstances dictate the outcome of a championship event. This was happening last night. I spent a good portion of the morning wide awake from about 2 o'clock on. I guess it started about 3:30 in the morning. The Carlos Alcaraz matchup in the semifinals against Sasha Zverev, who is number 3 in the world. I mean, you can't take anything away from the guy. Yet there seems to be, in terms of being able to overcome everything that it takes to win a slam. Zverev hasn't gotten there yet. He's gotten to a few finals. I believe he's been in 3 Grand Slam finals. He met a very unfortunate fate. He was going toe-to-toe with Alcaraz in a classic matchup in a French Open final a few years back. And remember, he had that hideous broken ankle. It was like the Dwight Stevenson injury or Joe Theismann. And he had to be taken off the court in a wheelchair. And it was just absolutely devastating. The guy was playing great. He's bounced back from that. He takes on Alcaraz. Alcaraz has won the first 2 sets, Lubie, and then starts cramping after the second set. Same thing that happened to Yannick Sinner in one of his previous matches where it appeared that Sinner was going to have to retire or was just going to be taken out. And sure enough, he managed to catch a big break from the officials as they went. The heat index, I don't know why it has to be that hot for them to close the roof on these courts. I think they might have 3 courts there that actually have a retractable dome at the Australian Open. I know they have at least 2, and I think it might be 3. So why would you subject these guys? I understand you have the element of fairness. I mean, if two guys are playing indoors while everybody else is out in 110-degree heat,
Yeah, it sucks.
it's not
It's not
fair.
fair.
But the heat index that they use to decide whether to cover and put the roof up on the stadiums and have them, the arenas and have them, it's so high. It's like you may as well have these guys just walk over hot coals or something.
Pass out. Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, oh, they're passing out now. Okay, time to close it. It's like, what?
Yeah. So anyway, Sinner, I know you probably. I don't know if you saw anything on this controversy because it always gets back to our star players receiving favors that others otherwise wouldn't. Now you see that with regard to scheduling. Sometimes seating is done by merit, so you can't really say, "Oh, well, this guy's got a soft path and the other guy doesn't."
Yeah.
But star players like Sinner and Alcaraz, clearly, the Australian Open would love to see these two guys matched up in the final.
Mhm.
Alcaraz is up 2 sets to love. He's in the third set, starts cramping badly.
Mhm.
When they closed the roof for Sinner, he was able to recover and come back and win the match. So he stayed alive in the tournament, and he's right on the court right now, actually, Lubie, with
Joker.
Novak Djokovic, and the Joker
He's
won't
hanging.
go away. The Joker is up 4-3 in the fourth set.
Oh my God, this could go 5 sets. Joker could
Could
go
go
five
could go
sets.
5. The Joker, he lost the first set 6-3, came back, won 6-3,
What a
dropped the third
match.
set 6-4, and is currently serving at 4-3, up a break in the fourth set. So very possible that goes 5. Neither player appears to be impaired by the conditions because their match started far after the 5.5 hour bloodbath that turned out with Alcaraz and Zverev. But as he's cramping, he calls for a medical timeout. Not uncommon, but apparently, and I didn't know this was a rule until this morning, you can't call a medical timeout for cramps,
Oh,
which
so
seems
that's
kind of odd because anybody could say that they hurt their groin or whatever, and who's going to tell you that they didn't?
yeah. So yeah, so is that what you do? You just lie about what's hurt?
I don't know. I mean, you could see that it was
Like
cramps
the
that was
Patriots,
clearly bothering
like Brady's always hurt every week.
Alcaraz. Yeah, yeah. And he calls for the medical timeout, and Zverev was absolutely apoplectic about it. He was saying, "What kind of garbage is this?" They had just done the same thing, a very favorable ruling for Yannick Sinner that saved him from being knocked out of the tournament. And here it appeared that they were doing it again. Now McEnroe in his commentary about the Sinner thing, I didn't see what he had to say about this because that was part of the match that I actually fell asleep during. Not because it wasn't exciting, but because it was like 4 a.m. and I was thinking I got to get up in a couple of hours and do this stuff. But yeah, I mean, McEnroe was saying, "Oh no, it's fine that when the Zverev thing, I mean the Sinner thing happened." He said, "Oh no, it's fine. They should give consideration, special consideration to the top players." I don't know how you feel about that. I mean, it's kind of like the Jordan rules and
Yeah, I mean,
Giannis walking and all of these other things that are often overlooked. The weird strike zones you get with certain guys. Ball goes cuts the plate in half, belt high, and they call it a ball because it's Juan Soto. What do you think, Lubie? I mean, on the principle of it alone, there's no way that you could condone that star players get
no, it
this
sucks.
kind of special treatment where the match could have easily been stopped at that point if
Yeah, it's, look,
Alcaraz
I
could come
just
back.
don't. Is it a rule or not? Though that's my problem. Like, and if Zverev called it, would they say no? You're Zverev, so you're not. Like, I don't get it. Like, like is that something that other guys can't
They
do?
watch the guy just crippled up like that. I mean, why wouldn't cramping be a permissible thing for a medical timeout?
I don't know.
That's
I've never
something that you conceivably can correct. Although, if you've ever been suffering from cramps while you're playing any kind of sporting event, when you're out there schwitzing, they don't
sucks.
go away. I mean, you might be able to plow through some of it, but
Yeah,
clearly compromised. Alcaraz, after that second set, he couldn't lift his body off the ground in his serving motion, which he normally does. You see these guys, it's not like you're watching Dr. Jerry and me, where you're flat footed on the ground, glued to the ground. These guys are leaping 2 feet in the air when they hit their serves, and he was serving flat footed. Just standing on it. He couldn't lift off the ground. He couldn't chase down. I mean, half of his game is the athleticism, or a big part of it. He couldn't chase down any shots, and he still somehow managed. I mean, how good is this kid? He still managed to get to two tiebreakers in the third and fourth set.
Jesus.
And then he's down a break. Zverev is serving for the match. He seemed to be slightly revived, Alcaraz, and he breaks in the game at 5-4. gets to 5-5, and eventually wins the third set 7-5. Unbelievable. So, well, we'll see if that matchup takes place. Certainly, the promoters would like to see that happen. Where you have Alcaraz and Sinner, and on the women's side, we have a little stake in Elena Rybakina to beat the player I normally root for because I don't know. I mean, how do you feel about athletes that really take advantage of a social media presence, Lubie? Like Arena Sabalenka is all over. She's always making these videos. I find them kind of fun because whether you like her or not as a player, I mean, she's a likable enough player, even though she it seems to be so dominant and much bigger and stronger in terms of the way she hits the ball and approaches the game than I mean, she is a modern day version of when Martina came in and overwhelmed all of these others with her aggressive tactics. But yeah, she's got a big presence on social media, so she's very popular. And as is anything, always the case with social media, there's a little bit of a divide. Some people think, hey, what a self indulgent show off this woman is, and then they all make comments about her screaming and getting away with that, which is perfectly within the rules. Although she did get, I don't know if they took a point away from her or just issued a warning that she was becoming a distraction to the other player by extending her screaming into the time after she had released the shot. So I don't know. It's been crazy, but I took a little taste on Rybakina. It's going to be a long hill to climb there against Sabalenka, but it's not out of question. 6-1, not bad, Louis. 6-1 before the semis.
Okay,
Had to
that's
beat
solid.
Pagula, had to beat, and then had to beat the winner of the other semi, which Sabalenka prevailed in over Svitolina. But been a good tournament. A lot of fun to watch, and we'll keep you posted on this thing that's going on now, unless you're watching it. Looks like Joker's serving. I don't know how updated this is. I think it's up to the minute. Joker's serving, and he's down 15-30 in a game where Sinner could even up and get back on serve in the fourth set. So we'll see what happens there. Would be pretty remarkable. I mean, Joker, you talk about having a lucky run. We were given a parallel to the Patriots, where in the postseason, the Patriots faced three teams that were badly depleted due to injury. The Chargers weren't the same team that you had seen during most of the regular season. The Texans came in with injuries, and then there was the very questionable performance by C.J. Stroud. Not implying, I mean, look, do you believe for a second that Stroud
No,
was being deliberate in terms of making these
no.
kind of bozoic mistakes? I
Well,
don't think so.
he hasn't been good the last 2 years. I mean, he's fallen back a lot. It's just the stuff he was doing. Ken wasn't wrong. Like it looked weird. Some of the turnovers. It was like, what was it? What were you doing there? Like that didn't make any sense. The thing you just did. But no, I don't think he was throwing the game. It's the NFL. Like
And he says Joker just held 5-3 Joker.
that's crazy.
Sinner serving. So in a great position if you can hold serve one more time in the what probably will be the last game of that set. He goes to a fifth set against the number one seed. Did have an easy path, like we were saying. This Jakub Mensik had to pull out altogether, and he was down to Lorenzo Musetti, 2 sets to love. Musetti playing great, and then Musetti pulled a groin muscle or tore a groin, did something damaging there to the inside of his leg. Couldn't continue. So he basically hadn't won a set since like last Saturday, and yet you got probably and the professor hates this terminology. He's going to be joining us shortly. Probably have some very unflattering things to say about the notion that Novak Djokovic might be. I mean, he's certainly in any conversation about who is the most mentally tough athletic performer you've ever seen. Would you say that's true? I mean, how many times has this guy rallied from
He's
the
great
grave?
in these situations. Like these are
Yeah,
the things he's done his whole career, no matter who he's playing, the best or the worst. He
clutch
finds himself
points.
here often, but he's
Yeah,
great in these situations.
unbelievable. Yeah, and able to stave off times where he's off his game, which is rare, but where he's just getting beaten to the punch by his opponent, and he somehow is able to just kind of keep that at bay and find a way to dig in and win. I mean, if you're looking for guys that find a way to win, Novak Djokovic would have to be up there. So he might pull off a big stunner here, Lubie, and beat Sinner and derail. Imagine if he won this thing. That I bet you, the odds on this Sinner match, I think you were having to lay 8 or 10 to 1 on Sinner if you wanted to take Sinner over Djokovic. You're getting like 1 to 8 That's ridiculous. Nobody would make that bet, would they? I mean, imagine that. You
No,
have
because again, things like this happen. First of all, the injury thing.
8,000 to win 1,000, saying Sinner was a cinch to
Four
be
guys
king.
have to get hurt and they have to tap out. Joker still is hanging there as that third guy that can take either Alcaraz or Sinner out.
Yeah,
And again, in tennis, you see guys out of nowhere come. Like it happens. It's a big field.
sure.
And as we talked about, the talent is very deep.
You could
Like
face the number 200 guy in the world in
it's
the
a
opening
matter
round, and he's on his game and he beats you. It's very
that's a
fun.
matter done. You're just asking yourself to lose money and go, oh my God, how did I look? You know, like you're just asking for it in a bet like that. That's
But
just,
all gamblers do. Oh my God, what did I do? What did I do? Who did I betray in a previous life, Lubie, that I deserve this fate? Unbelievable that you have to face loss after loss and just try to find a way to rationalize it or justify it somehow. Professor going to join us here shortly. Probably have some college basketball. We haven't really discussed much college basketball. I have to admit, very lame. I've watched fragments of games here and there, Lubie. I don't know about you. I think was this a women's game? I always get confused when I see some scores. I saw just played the night before, so they wouldn't have been playing Duke. That had to be the women because Miami had beaten Stanford the night before. So, and they're having a reasonably decent season from a record standpoint. I did see 2 seconds of an FAU game. How have they disappeared from the platform since that Final Four appearance? Are they back to just being like FAU? Like you didn't even know there was a school there?
100%.
Hey, look,
That's
a college. Oh, there's a basketball game tonight?
he
Nice.
clearly is like one of the great coaches in college basketball. Like didn't Michigan go to the eights last year? And they had some struggles in the season, and then this year they're like a top 5 team.
Yeah.
This is his second year. Like and again, FAU went to the Final Four, and then the next year did go back to the tournament, and I think won a game. Like the dude's just a legit great coach. Like
I went to the FAU basketball game with the Visser Mama. It was like a Saturday afternoon game or something. And Dusty May came in. The press conference, I mean, the press gathering consisted of like a couple of interns and whoever was the editor of the school newspaper. I think that was about it. I think they might have had a broadcasting thing. But the guy, he was so composed and polished in all business, Libby. I was thinking that this guy's going to succeed somewhere else. You knew if they made it into the tournament. At that point, we didn't know that they were going to have the kind of run they did in the tournament. But and of course that eclipsed anything that you might have looked at in terms of a regular season game. That they were in midst of. Remember, they had like this huge winning streak, Louis, where they won. Didn't they win like some record number of games in succession? I think so. No.
wow. Sure.
Remember that one year where everybody was like, "Hey, when are you going to talk about FAU basketball?" It's like never. But here we are talking about it because
Oh yeah,
it
huge
was
winning
stunning.
streak with Dusty May. Yeah, obviously. No, the guy's clearly a great coach, and he's come and gone, and FAU's gone back to being FAU. I don't know anything about their basketball. I couldn't even tell you who their coach is.
Big game tonight, Michigan State. Let's bring in the professor who actually knows about this
Actually,
subject.
if we're going to talk college basketball,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
blind
Well,
leading
what
the
the hell are
blind.
we doing? I mean, we don't know what the F we're talking about.
I
Dusty eyes. No,
heard about the Bansa or whatever Ken has to help me pronounce it the other day for the first time. The guy is supposedly like this monster that
Yeah.
the whole country's talking about. So I'm like, oh Jesus, how behind are you? So,
Where's that guy? At BYU or something?
exactly. You and I are on the same page. We barely know this kid who everyone like loves, and then there's supposedly 2 kids that may be better. I'm like, okay, I don't know what the hell's going on.
I know Patino lost a bunch of games. And I was
on
very
the Heat and the college football stuff too much to know what the hell's going on in college basketball.
How you doing, Professor? What's up, my man?
I was thinking about this morning. I don't know if you remember, but 1 year ago at this time, Lubie was it Spain with the lovely
Oh,
Shirley?
maybe. Yeah, actually, yeah, probably.
And you and I were doing shows, and I think it was on a Friday. It was either Thursday or Friday. The big story of the week was Justin Tucker and his love of
Yes.
asking inappropriate spa workers for happy endings. So I got to totally derail a show for like 45 minutes with my thoughts on the massage industry in general
Yes.
and Justin Tucker's habits of asking for this at like the Four Seasons, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Probably you a little less so. And it hit me that with all the Belichick bullshit for the last 3 days, that story was actually more enjoyable and less stupid than this nonsense we've been going through for the last 3 days.
I had a funny feeling. I didn't want to mention it before you came on because I figured this might be a platform you would want to take advantage of in terms of what I'm sure are very unbiased thoughts about the what most people consider to be an outrageous snub by the Hall of Fame to the
I have
Canadian
several
racing.
thoughts.
Yes.
I freely admit my bias. I look when Mayo first came to me, I said the best part about this, the 1 year snub, whether you think it's petty or not, is that there is some chance that succubus he's dating will get tired of looking at his withered old genitals and murder him sometime in the next year in a plot with her adult cheerleading squad. And
Adult cheerleading.
he'll never get a chance to put the gold jacket on while he's alive. Because again, of old rich men who have an chance to be murdered, I'd say he's like in the top 5 or 10% in terms of odds to be murdered because he has picked the wrong woman to be around.
Now, are you a Jimmy Johnson fan? I'm assuming you are.
Again,
You met the
I
Jimmy.
love
I mean,
this,
how
and
can you not like
everybody in the world I know has hit me with the Jimmy Johnson comments this week.
But I mean,
Things.
would you say in general? I mean, when we were down there at his place eating his free food and having a great time, and he sat with us for like an hour.
More than that, I think. I think it was closer to 2.
So you could not have come away from that not at least being somewhat respectful of Jimmy's.
I've
opinions
never
on
been.
football.
I've always had a high respect for. I freely admit Jimmy Johnson knows more about football than I do. Has forgotten more about football than I will ever know.
Yeah.
No question about it. On the other hand, and boy, I hate doing this on the show because I like Jimmy Johnson. We also, during that interview, had like this 15-minute speech where Jimmy talked about the most proud accomplishment of his life as a coach was when he first started at Oklahoma State. He liked to sit down with his players and talk about how they were doing in class because he was just as proud of being a teacher and a mentor as he was a coach. Well, one of the people in that room at Oklahoma State was illiterate cokehead Dexter Manley. So
there was maybe a few lapses there.
So I'm just saying, perhaps Jimmy's memories aren't perfect.
That's a tough one to
that
buy
means
whenever a coach
perhaps they're a
actually says
little
that.
stilted on that subject. And the
Well,
other
obviously.
Yeah.
the other things we know,
Butch Davis was the same way. They all said the same.
of course, again, Lou Holtz loved to pitch that while at the same time forcing Notre Dame to take Prop 48 students for the only time they did in their history. As soon as Holtz left, they stopped taking Prop 48 students again, and they
Dennis
put the
Erickson
Medal
was
of
shuffling,
Freedom on
yeah.
Lou Holtz.
Dennis
Again,
was shuffling Pell Grants that he had stacked up in the chart as he never went to a class.
because we have done business with his place in Key West, because one of my best friends works at the place, our former radio partner CJ.
Yes.
We know a couple of things for a fact. Number one, Belichick and Jimmy Johnson are incredibly close friends. And we have been told by people, including CJ, who's biggest Giants fan in the world, has a reason to hate Belichick, that Belichick apparently as a human being is a really good dude.
That's what
None of which changes the fact that he's a cheater. I mean, as far as these comments, and Mayo has hit me with them on text, you're in the thread endlessly about Jimmy Johnson says this, and such person says it wasn't really a big deal, and they didn't really get any advantage for it, so it's not really cheating. You're all wrong. I can say that with 100% facts. And the reason I know you're wrong is because you know who thought it was a big deal and they gained a big advantage? Bill Belichick thought it was a big deal and gained a big advantage. And the reason I know that 100% factually is that 12 years after he got caught, after the Patriots lost the first-round draft pick, after the team was fined $250,000, after he was fined a record $500,000, he went and did it again. He went and stole signals again in 2019 using the exact same scam that he had come up with in 2007 along with his cheating coordinator, Ernie Adams, that was extensively detailed in the 2015 article by I don't remember the ESPN writer, the two writers for ESPN.
Yeah, Woodward and Bernstein, I think.
Yeah, basically.
So they had a couple of
again, it's one of two things. Either you think Bill Belichick is just a total moron who cheats just for the hell of it, or he thought that he was gaining something out of it because
Here's
he
one thing,
went
though.
back and did it again.
Got to interject one thing, all right?
Okay.
This whole thing about sign stealing. And we know, and I remember being annoyed, even though I liked the guy very much, Joe Garagiola, with his sign stealing and all of this. That's all he ever talked about, the signs. All right, so why now does every pitcher? I mean, they'll have a Japanese guy, a Mexican guy, and an American guy, two interpreters out there on the mound, and they're having a discussion of whether to throw a fastball or a curve. There's only a couple of things the guy can do, and they're going to cover their mouths because they're assuming that the entire stadium is saturated with lip readers. And you see the same thing, even though they have sophisticated direct into the helmet communications now in the NFL. Every guy goes Andy Reid and covers his mouth. So the assumption is that there are people saturated and infiltrated all throughout this stadium that are lip reading, that are trying to help one team or the other steal the other team's signs. So
Yeah, you know why that
but
is? Because of Bill
it's not
Belichick.
uncommon. I mean, it's been going on forever. It's not the most unusual thing, and there's still concerns
This
about it
is
no matter
another
what.
argument. Everybody else does it. So let me
No,
ask
I
you a
don't say
question.
it's condonable because everybody else does it, but I'm just looking at the concern that never mind. Okay, they install like the Astros did special electronics so that they can steal signs. That's taking
Correct.
away. I mean, that's an advantage the other team just doesn't have. I mean, the other team's trying to steal
Correct.
their signs while they're doing the same thing, obviously, with these lip readers. And where are these lip readers, Professor? Have you ever come across in any of your stadium
I know we
visits like a
have
guy's
them.
going, "Hey, don't bother me right now. I'm trying to read the lips of the offensive coordinator. I think he's going to run the ball."
You know why? You don't understand that? Because you don't look for the guys wearing the Kraft production shirts.
Look, you know what? I saw an explanation from one of the voters, and I'm not sure I'm buying it because it's an easy way out from just saying, "Hey, look, I hate the guy, and I think he's a cheating bastard, and he shouldn't ever be in the Hall of Fame." And the guy is now it's like Vi Gregorian out of the Kansas City Star.
This is the guy who claimed he voted for Ken
Well, he
Anderson
said, yeah,
instead
because
because he
the
wanted Ken
category,
Anderson
and
to
it
be
is
the
a little weird, right? Where you have these senior guys that may be on their last chance, like a Jerry Kramer before he's going to check out. You want to get him in the Hall of Fame on his 15th try, 100 years after he played. I can see where a guy would have empathy for those guys, sympathy for those guys, and vote them in. And so, what is Belichick doing on that list of five people? What would be one thing? But that clearly, I would think, was not whatever this Gregorian guy was trying to pass off as the truth. I don't
Look,
think it was the prevailing wisdom of these voters that left him off.
look, there are a few categories of people here. Start with people like myself, and Lubie's talked about it, and as I have people who hate the New England
Yeah.
Patriots, and people who don't like cheating in sports and have no problem for those two reasons with Bill Belichick being penalized for. Number two, New England Patriots fans, in which case I 100% get it because your franchise went on the greatest run in the history of the NFL, very arguably, given the competition, the greatest run in the history of American
Yeah, in
professional
this era, that's
sports.
crazy.
I mean, it's really only them and those Celtics teams with Russell, which was basically a rigged
Yeah, there's like
league with
16
8
And the
teams.
team remained the same for all of it.
Yeah,
Again, very arguably the greatest run. And what you don't want is that legacy
tarnished.
tied in with the legacy of
Yeah,
cheating.
tarnished.
You don't want the two mixed up. That yes, they went on this great run, but they were also cheating.
It's a
the whole time.
high-minded argument.
And you have successfully done that largely with the owner already, Bob Kraft, because if you listen to the broadcasts, like when Nance and Romo cut to the endless crowd shots of Bob Kraft, it's not endless. It's not Fernando Mendoza's family. It's
It's a
like
few though every
games.
game.
Oh, he's
It's
always
always like,
pictured.
oh, there's Mr. Kraft. And they always are very reverential and call him
Yes,
Mr.
yes.
Kraft instead of more accurate names like, oh, there's sex offender Bob Kraft.
Yeah, they never
Or,
mentioned the Asian
oh,
spa.
or though there's well-known pervert Tug Job Bob, which would again would
How about the
be
body wasn't
more
even told of
accurate.
his beloved wife, and he was already with this babe? That was
Again,
great.
would be more accurate descriptions of Robert Kraft. So you've already successfully
They have
broken
kind of
apart
brushed
those.
all of that over, have they not?
I hold out hope that 2 years from now they will do this again to Tom Brady, but I don't think that's very realistic. I think they will successfully whitewash Tom Brady's legacy. But what you found out if you were one of those people is that in the case of Bill Belichick, you don't get to do that. That there is now this symbolic asterisk on Bill Belichick's Hall
But
of Fame
he
entrance
refused induction next year when they put him in, which is
because he cheated.
no. I mean, what does he do?
But and all those people I get. Like the fact if you're a Patriots fan and you're angry about what I don't get is the anger from people like yourself and Mike Mayo.
I'm not
who know the
angry. I
man
mean,
cheated,
I understand it.
who know he's been kept out for a year because he cheated, and now is like, look, I think this is perfectly understandable. Like we're docking you a year because you are a cheater. I don't see what the issue is in keeping that up. I'm generally confused by that. And I'm also confused by people like yourself, because I saw the show the other day, who want to minimize or excuse the level of cheating. I saw you use the example of the Michigan sign stealing, where apparently you think Jim Harbaugh, who could never beat Ohio State and could never win a big game, just happened to magically start winning big games and beating Ohio State every year at the same time.
You watch
while they were stealing signals.
You watch
the
way
two
more.
Had nothing to do with each other.
You watch way more college football than I do, but I'm amazed when I say. I mean, look, signs to me were my roommate putting down either one finger or two, and he knew I couldn't throw the second pitch, so it was going to be the same thing every time. And I had trouble.
Well,
I had trouble seeing the signs when they were being flashed to me and figuring out what the hell they were. When you see the 6 guys that came off the freshman squad, and they're all doing different things. One's jumping rope, one's flying a drone, and they all have different placards. And I have no idea which one of those guys is the guy that's signaling in the play. Do you? I mean, it would take
let's ask
to figure it
somebody.
out.
Let's ask somebody who knows about this. Okay, Lubie.
What?
Remember the 2014 Rose Bowl?
2014? You talking about where we got screwed by Auburn and we somehow found a way in the second half to win?
Was stealing signals a big deal?
Supposedly, if you notice, FSU changed their signals at half. Auburn scored 1 touchdown in the last 2 minutes. And Auburn tried to say that's not what's happening, but literally FSU was getting worked in the first half. All they did was they changed nothing but their signs at half, and Auburn had no answers until like the last 2 minutes.
And who was coaching Auburn on that game?
Malzahn? Is Malzahn a cheater? I don't know.
No. Who was the assistant coach?
I don't know. Who?
Damian Craig. What was Damian Craig's job?
Was that his thing? I don't know. Oh, from the Patriots?
It was FSU's quarterback coach.
Oh, yeah, he was under Jimbo.
Well, Belichick used to do a lot of that also, where he would get a player from a team the week before they were about to play them.
So good. It's cheating, and it's kind of a big deal.
Well, it's funny too. I mean, if you think about one of the more fabled mishaps in Dolphin history, was when Marino threw the ball to Mike Vrabel. And they had just signed Byers, I guess, like a couple of weeks before, I want to say, and it seemed like they knew the play.
And what happened with that? Ted Johnson, who Patriots fans have tried to discredit for years because he has CTE, came out and said, "Oh yeah, we knew their plays, we knew their hot calls."
I mean, I guess that's not cheating. That's getting.
I don't know. It's been going on forever.
It's annoying.
I'm not a fan of it. Look, I mean, if you're going out of your way to do this sort of stuff, are you circumventing the rules or putting them in a very gray area? Absolutely. Is everybody doing it? Does that make it right? I don't know.
Here's the thing. This is why all of these kind of debates should be over. In 2007, they very clearly established it was against the rules.
They punished him hard.
And you were going to be penalized. And then he did it again in 2019. The fact that he went back and did it again.
First thing I ever covered, though.
For me, personally, absolutely closes this case. Like, yes, it's cheating. Yes, it was against the rules. And yes, it's a big deal because if you rob an Arby's and you only get $27 out of the safe because nobody ever goes to Arby's, you don't come back 12 years later, sit in front of an Arby's and scope out that only 3 people still come to Arby's and then go rob Arby's again. Like, that's not something human beings do. If it's worthless,
don't do it.
And you
no one would say it's
penalized for it, you don't go back and do it
but
again.
But if you can figure it out, I guess it's part of it. Very first thing I ever had to cover.
The man is a football genius and a great football coach, but he's absolute garbage at cheating. Every time he cheats, he gets caught.
Everybody, I was.
You would think he would have learned that lesson. Is that like this cheating coordinator who I had on my roster, the Ernie Adams character, is really bad at this because we keep getting caught over and over again.
All right. Let's move on.
I need to go hire a new cheating coordinator because the one I got is garbage.
Like I said, I was starting to say, I was covering high school football 50 years ago, and the guy that became the head coach did so under some cloud of controversy because what had happened when he was an assistant at another high school, he was found to be filming another team's practice, and this goes
What a
back into the
shock.
early '70s. So
Okay, and that's with a 1970s camera where you can't tell anything.
maybe so. I don't know. He was like banned from certain areas of the high school football playing fields, and then finally he got his big shot as a head coach there at Fontana High. And I don't know that he was still operating in the same unscrupulous fashion.
Anyway,
Uh,
to circle back and restart, the Justin Tucker story was more enjoyable.
yeah,
than
no,
this
I
story.
knew you would
And
have like strong opinions about that.
it had, as Bob Kraft well knows, a happy ending.
Yeah, and so then you're not in agreement with the statements on Truth Social by the president of the United States that it's a travesty. What would you expect, though, is his side?
Let's go into that because I do have, and I know you enjoy my football conspiracy
Yes.
theories. What if the reason he was holed out was just to get people finally talking about the Hall of Fame? The one thing the NFL does that nobody gives a damn about and nobody pays attention to. What if, like, the NFL got together and said, you know what? Let's create something so that people finally watch the Hall of Fame and watch the Hall of Fame game, which is the one game a year, even for preseason, that nobody gives a damn about. Because the starters, if they play at all, they play for like 2 plays, and they don't even go to the second team. They immediately go to the future Amazon workers portion of the roster after like the first 3 plays of the game. Maybe this is just the NFL. Like, let's be honest, the geniuses at the NFL have made the NFL draft one of the like top 10 sports events on the annual calendar. Like 100,000 people now show up to watch the NFL draft in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Yeah. Which look, I like the city of Green Bay, but like if I went to school about 10 miles.
Oh, but did you go into this year's draft?
No, I went to the first one when they took it into Chicago, and if they ever take it back to Chicago, I'll probably go again. I had a blast that weekend. We went to the draft. We went to a Cubs game. On Saturday, which at that time was the 3rd day of the draft, we drove to Kentucky and went to the Kentucky Derby.
What kind of drive was that? Was that like 6 hours?
It was like 6.5 or 7 hours. But it was a blast. We had a great time. That said, like fundamentally, unless you're like me and you're a nerd, the NFL draft is kind of a stupid event.
It's crazy.
Dudes coming up to the podium and reading names.
It's a glorified version of choosing up sides. I mean, we used to do that.
Yeah,
put on one finger two, and okay, I got Lou, you got Fred. That's.
And again, the NFL has somehow made that into like a top 10 sports event of the year.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe this is just the NFL cooking up controversy because the one thing the NFL does that nobody talks about has now been talked about all over every sports media outlet in the country for 3 consecutive days. Again, the NFL schedule release gets more attention than the NFL Hall of Fame. Seriously, it does. Like the Titans do that video every year that everybody loves where they go find the stupidest people on earth and show them the logos and they guess what the teams are. I think it's the Seattle Seahawks that has a Japanese company make an anime, like a full-on 6-minute long anime about their. Everybody does like this huge schedule release thing now. And people love it, but nobody gives a damn. Unless you're a local guy, like when Zach got in, nobody talks about the NFL Hall of Fame. Now, everybody, and I'll tell you what, they could really do this right if they kept Belichick out again next year, because there'd be this whole round of like, oh my God, are they going to keep him out forever? Is he going to be banned from the Hall of Fame? And then in 2 years, they could do this big event where Brady and Belichick both get in at the same time. And everybody,
you have too much thinking on this.
Everybody in 5
days down a rabbit hole with this thing, yeah.
All of a sudden goes to
what is going on with you? My God!
I was like, well, maybe that's
you
true.
used to say this about my Brian Flores theories, and all of a sudden you were like, "Oh my God, it's 100%." Was 100%.
Right. I don't know that I buy all of that, Professor. As much as I love you, but
just saying.
All right, let's do it.
From a PR standpoint, this would be an absolute genius move.
Understood. All right. We need a couple of college hoops picks and.
By the way, we've got a couple tonight. We actually do like Dusty May and the Michigan Wolverines. They are laying 1.5 to Sparty. what a week Michigan is having. Last weekend, they had to play Ohio State. On Wednesday, they had to play Nebraska, who are arguably the second best team. I mean, them and Sparty are pretty much head to head for the second best team, and Nebraska already beat Sparty, although it was in Nebraska. They survived that game despite Nebraska playing a brilliant game. Now they go on the road to play Sparty. I think Michigan's just more battle tested at this point in the season than Sparty is. Sparty's really only notable game of the year thus far was a loss where they played very close to Duke. And I think Michigan's just got more offensive firepower than Sparty does. Takes us into tomorrow where we've got BYU and AJ DeBonza, since Lubie was talking about him a few weeks ago, going to Kansas. Kansas looks to people like they're getting on a roll, though they're doing it with their best player, Darren Peterson, sort of off and on with a high ankle sprain. He's supposed to be back tomorrow, which is why Kansas is laying 4.5. But if he's missed the last 2 games with a high ankle sprain, we all know that tends to linger, particularly in the sport of basketball. So I'm liking the Cougars, plus the 4 and a hook there. They came off a tough loss a couple nights ago, a home game against Arizona. But if you watch the game, they were getting smoked the whole game and managed to battle back in the last 10 seconds to actually only be down 1 with the ball when the Arizona freshman made an incredible block from behind to win the game. So BYU actually a pretty tested and solid basketball team, catching 4.5 against a Kansas team who, even if their best player does play, probably is not fully healthy. So we like Michigan tonight laying a 1.5, and then BYU catching 4 and a hook tomorrow against Kansas.
Very nice, Professor. Well thought out.
And let me give a to the people who make the college basketball schedule. How are you morons not scheduling just big game after big game, night after night, this entire week during the
there's nothing going on.
This is your time to shine, and we've gotten like four good games the entire week.
All right. Well,
Excuse me.
Michigan State tonight. That'll be one to keep an eye on. And Professor saying, go ahead, lay that point in a hook behind our man Dusty May, who pretty remarkable, unbelievable. All right.
Take the fight from Dusty Mays.
Big board, Professor. Does it pertain to what we've already?
Not at all. In fact, because this is the week where really it's the silly season in sports where we don't have a lot going on unless you're a college basketball fan, which I am. But we will do some college basketball big boards as the season progresses along. So this week we really don't have a whole lot. So I decided to go totally off the board. And it was inspired by a special anniversary this week. But it has absolutely nothing to do with sports. Lubie, if you'd like to pull that up for us.
Here we go. This week's big board.
Of the life lessons taught to us by 1980s sitcoms.
Very nice.
Now, you will see why I chose this particular subject in just a moment. But for those of you who lived through the 70s and 80s and into the early 90s, you will remember that about once every other year, the sitcoms always had the very special episode where they tried to teach you something important about life, where they would teach you things like don't do drugs and, don't let your sister become a prostitute. Or in the case of All in the Family, don't try to rape Edith Bunker because she might throw a hot cake in your face. And if, like me, you grew up in the 1980s and you grew up with 1980s sitcoms, or Don't Be Alone in the Trailer with Bill Cosby. Okay. There were some very important life lessons, and one of them had a very big anniversary, and that is Different Strokes. Now, of course, the very special episode with Different Strokes everybody remembers is the one where Arnold and Dudley ended up in the bike shop, and it turned out the bike shop was owned by a pedophile who was played by Gordon Jump of WKRP in Cincinnati, Mr. Carlson fame, and he showed them nude cartoons of mice, presumably some sort of nude Tom and Jerry knockoff, and then Dudley probably got raped, but they dealt with that off camera. That's the one everybody talks about, but they forgot about another one that the Different Strokes went and did a couple of years later, and it was the anniversary this very week of the episode where number 5, Arnold and Kimberly go hitchhiking and get picked up by a guy who kidnaps them. So the lesson here, I guess, is don't hitchhike, despite the fact that Arnold and Kimberly's father, Mr. Drummond, was a millionaire who had a penthouse on Park Avenue. So I don't really know why they were hitchhiking in the first place, and they're not just catching a taxi or, walking like kids in New York City do all the time, but they decided to hitchhike. That led them to getting kidnapped. And if you'll notice, Arnold got tied up and put on the bed, and Kimberly got stuffed in the closet. Eventually, Arnold escaped and then went to the police, but couldn't remember where the apartment where Kimberly was being held captive was, which, seems like a thing you would easily forget. Apparently not a doorman
Yeah.
building like Arnold and Kimberly were used to. So, who the hell knows what happened to Kimberly in the preceding moments when Arnold couldn't remember. So again, the lesson here was don't hitchhike because you might get kidnapped by a possibly schizophrenic serial killer. If you saw the episode, the guy talks to himself. The guy's apparently hearing voices. So the other important lesson here for Different Strokes is that schizophrenic people are dangerous and should be treated like criminals even before they've done anything, because you don't know what they'll do. They'll probably try to serial kill you and your sister. But the reason this struck a chord with me is because get a look at this guy and notice this particular schizophrenic serial killer bears a very strong resemblance to somebody we already know.
Two addendums on
That's
the
his
number
dad.
5
Like there's
proposition is unbelievable.
This is what inspired this whole thing, because I'm looking at the pictures of people celebrating this Different Strokes episode, and I notice, wow, that serial killer looks a lot like Kurt Signetti. Like that could be Kurt Signetti's uncle from the 1980s with a slightly different haircut. And let's be honest about it. We've talked about it here on this show. We know Kurt Signetti has a basement because he lives in Indiana, and there's probably a giant pit at the basement where he dances around and says, "Put the trophy in the basket or else it will get the hose again." And then strokes Fernando Mendoza's hair and says, "Yes, it will, Fernando. It will get the hose."
Whatever it is that
Different
you
Strokes.
are using these days, Professor, I want some of it.
Different Strokes, a show way ahead of its time, because not only did it teach you not to hitchhike, it teach you to stay away from people who look like Kurt Signetti, because clearly the man has some violent homicidal impulses.
It could appear that way. Yeah, I mean, very similar. Great parallel there in the two pictures. All right, that's number 5, A and B.
That takes us to number 4, which is a very special episode of Punky Brewster, called the most important special episode because it taught kids that they need to learn CPR and actually inspired a whole movement of teaching CPR in classrooms to kids. In this particular episode, Punky's friend Sherry is playing hide and seek with Punky and their friends, and she hides in an abandoned refrigerator, then runs out of oxygen and passes out, and Punky and her dad have to rescue her by knowing CPR, which for some random reason in 1982 they already knew. And also, apparently, people just used to leave abandoned refrigerators sitting around in the yards back in the 1980s.
Very
I
common.
don't personally remember this. I grew up in the 1980s, and I don't remember the land just being covered with abandoned refrigerators. But apparently, that was an issue back then. There's a whole guy who drives around my neighborhood looking on big garbage days for stuff
Sure.
to pick up that he restores and sells. I've never once seen a refrigerator just sitting out front. Like,
No?
Oh, that's the thing. I guess. Well, back in the day, though, it was a weird thing. Once in a while, people would put their fridge out front.
I do recall
It used
that.
to be
Yeah.
a thing. With
I don't remember that at all.
Well, because
I honestly, I can only picture the look on my garbage
they weren't so
man's
heavy
face
back
if I
in the
left a freaking refrigerator sitting back.
back in the day, you could
I
move it.
believe
Now they're heavy
it
as
was
hell,
not
and
a common
they
one.
fit perfectly, and they're hard to get out. So I think most of the time
Yeah.
you get a new fridge, so it's a part of the package where they'll take out the old fridge. Because back in the day, I remember my parents doing that.
Okay.
And I always thought, like you're saying, I'm like, who would just
believe,
get in the fridge? Why would you do that? That's freaking
Yeah.
weird.
Did you and your friends
Because
climb
it's
into the
just
abandoned
thing.
refrigerator? Like
Yeah, I think I remember having been warned a few times by the parents. You see a refrigerator out there, don't climb in it because you could get stuck. Which apparently, what was almost of epidemic proportions back then. Number of refrigerators that were on the street to number of people that got in the jackpot as a result of that. So, yeah, I think it was sort of common.
Good to know. Then,
So they were drawing up a common theme
yeah,
here.
good to know, and good job by the people of Punky Brewster to teach you about the dangers of abandoned
Stay out of the fridge.
refrigerators.
I keep telling myself that
And
every day
also
when I
learn
wake up.
CPR.
Yeah.
Number 3, and this is really
Yeah.
too many shows we can mention, including the aforementioned Different Strokes, which is old white people make better parents for black children than anybody else. Doesn't matter if, much like Alex Karras here on the right, you're a man whose basically known for his largeness and history of violence, you are still, as an old white man, better suited to raise young black children than anybody else. It doesn't matter that your other best known Hollywood acting role was as the corrupt sheriff in Porky's. You're still, it doesn't matter that if you're Alex Karras, and this is true, by the way, back during the 1980s, decided that Miller Lite didn't have a high enough alcohol content, so did commercials for the Schlitz Malt Liquor Bowl instead of Miller Lite. You were better suited to be the parent of a young black child. Now, of course, this is a theme that ran out throughout sitcoms in the 1980s. And whether it was Mrs. Garrett raising Tootie on the facts of life, or Different Strokes, where Mr. Drummond was such a good parent that Arnold got kidnapped by a serial killer while hitchhiking, and ended up in a pedophile's bike shop where Dudley got raped. He was still more qualified to be ringing, particularly if you were a young black child who had some kidney disease that made you look eternally like you were 6 years old. You were best suited to be raised by an older white couple.
These are some heavy-duty lessons, Professor. I don't know that I derived the same themes out of these shows, but very, very interesting. All right, what's number two?
Number two was one of the most interesting shows of the 1980s, and we'll tell you up front, it's Family Ties. I don't know if you ever watched the show Family Ties, but it was a huge hit in the 1980s. And the whole theme of the show were these two hippie parents who had reformed and got normal jobs in the 1980s, and how their children had all absolutely turned on them in terms of their political and worldviews. Of course, led by the star turned by Michael J. Fox's one, Alex P. Keaton, who played a teenager who worshipped Ronald Reagan and hated every liberal on the planet because of his hippie parents. And despite what they taught you is, if you were a hippie, grow up and manage a PBS station, and your mom, who's supposedly an architect, but you never actually see her working. She appears to be a stay-at-home mom. And you will manage to own at least 4-bedroom home in a very nice, suburb town, despite the fact that your father's salary is based on working at PBS, which maybe this is what turned America on PBS, was they realized that Dad on Family Ties could afford a really nice house on the manager of a PBS station. Like, what was he doing behind the scenes that you could afford this?
He had to be siphoning some of the
like
marketing
you're
budget.
selling those PBS tote bags on the side, moving them out the back door to the mafia or something.
Hey, those bags aren't
But
free.
through another character, they taught us a very important lesson. The daughter, played by Justine Bateman Mallory, had a boyfriend, and the people at Family Ties used the daughter's boyfriend to teach us the most important lesson of the show, which is that the working poor are literal human garbage. Mallory's boyfriend, Nick,
this guy,
who was an artist who made his art out of garbage, but anytime the man mentioned his art or his show, he didn't say, I'm an artist or I'm a sculptor. He always said, I'm a garbage artist. I'm a garbage sculptor. They made it very clear to let you know that if you hippies didn't reform, you were going to end up being a guy in his mid to late 20s dating a high schooler who spent all his time rooting around in dumps to pick up garbage for your art. If you didn't go get a real corporate job like Alex P. Keaton, the hero of the show, you would spend your time rooting around in garbage while possibly being a sex offender. The definition of a sex offender was a little different in the 1980s. Apparently, it wasn't okay for a guy who looked like he might be as old as his early 40s to date a high school girl. And the hippie parents hated him because he rooted in garbage all the time. Because the hippie parents came to realize, oh my God, you didn't go get a station manager job at PBS. You didn't go get an architect. You just decided to be an artist, and you spend all your time surrounded by garbage. They turned him into a literal Oscar the Grouch. The man might as well have lived inside of a garbage can.
I love that character. They were so weird about that character. Then he would always be dirty and gross, and it was like, he's just doing art.
Again, he never said, I'm an artist. He never said, I'm a sculptor. He always said, I'm a garbage artist. I'm a garbage sculptor. I root around in the trash. Like, every time the man appeared on screen, they somehow managed to work in the fact that he had just come from rooting around.
Yeah, he was always dirty. He was always dirty.
And surprisingly, given what we learned on the other shows, never once did he show up with an abandoned refrigerator.
I can relate having that one experience. It still gives me very, very nervous feelings when I had to fish my winning ticket at Hollywood Park out of a garbage thing that had just been tipped upside down onto a platform where they were about to remove it from the Hollywood Park grandstand, and it was no pleasant experience. But I was so desperate; it was my last $40 back at a time when that was a reasonable amount of money to bring to a track. That I went through everything like chicken bones, this, that, and the other thing. Would not have been something I would have pursued to be a garbage artist. That's for sure. All right, so, number two, family ties. And what tops the list,
But
Professor? Very
again,
interesting.
it's interesting because you just said a few goes like, I did not watch these shows the same way you did. It's because you were a little older, Defo. You're already formed by the time these shows. Your
I
worldview
don't
Yeah.
think Devo's watching
were already
80s.
solidified by.
I used to watch a little Family
I, on
Ties.
the other
Yeah.
hand, am firmly Generation X. These
I know
shows,
this is what you grew up to. Yeah,
these shows were what I grew up with. These shows
I
helped
saw them on
shape
reruns.
my worldview. Okay,
Yeah, I
these
saw them
shows
on reruns.
were formative for me. And like all other members of Generation X, I was taught by Zach Morris, the worst human being to ever be on television. Everything
Yeah.
you hate about the modern world started with Zach freaking Morris. Now, the picture here is the time Zach Morris kidnapped a Russian chess player from
immigration,
Valley
yeah.
High so
Yeah.
he could win his bet on a high school chess match with the bookies from Valley High. And when he got caught being part of an international kidnapping ring, he explained to his principal, I only kidnapped him so I could win the bet I made on high school chess.
Would always get off too.
And everybody was
Perfectly,
like, oh, that's so Zach Morris. Now you
Building
think
always done.
Justifiable
that's
explanation,
the
I
only
think.
thing about
Tell
Zach
him off.
Morris. But if you were like, let's just use a really easy to go to example, the thing everybody says they hate in society, right there, our addiction to cell phones.
Yeah.
Guess who carried around a brick cell phone
Yeah,
every
the only one.
episode of Saved by the Bell? And this is back in the days where Zach Morris's phone addiction cost his parents like $14 a minute. Like, I can't imagine
it
what
was-
Zach Morris's parents' phone bill looked like. They probably opened it up and like, oh, Zach spent another $1,000.
He got popped
His
for it a
phone
bunch of
bill
times. You would
this
get in
week.
trouble because of the phone. It was
And
like
the life
insane.
lesson you learned was that the way to succeed in life, even when you were like a 15 and 16-year-old high schooler, was to run endless scams and frauds. Like, if you're worried, you wonder why we have such a fraud economy, there's our role model right there, Zach Morris, a man who, among things, ran a human trafficking ring, a man who once sent his best friend into the girls' locker room unknown to take pictures of the girls and then published a calendar out of the pervert pictures he
Yes.
took of the girls changing into their bathing suit in the locker room. A man who once stole $3,000 from the school store so he could buy U2 tickets and scalp them. A man who rigged a poker game in which he lost his rigged poker game and then lost his best friend's dog in the process. If you wonder why Generation X is so messed up, it's because we were told that we should be like Zach Morris and it would all work out in the end. My academic career was based on Zach Morris because just like me, Zach Morris got rotten grades and then drilled the SAT and got into whatever school he wanted to, including taking Jesse's scholarship to Stanford because his SAT scores were so much better than hers.
I love how much you like to say about
He had little Eddie Haskell.
Oh,
on him,
100%.
man. He was like a Eddie
Haskell was
Yeah.
the
No,
precursor.
he did have Eddie Haskell. Eddie Haskell was a rascal who did rascally things. Zach Morris was an out-and-out criminal.
He's a
You know
criminal.
how much money Zach Morris stole via fraud during the course of Saved by the Bell?
Well, you
It
have to
has be
adjust to the
well
time.
into the millions of dollars.
Well, that's the funny thing. Like Zach Morris at the time was like this hero, but like, what's his name? The actor distanced himself totally. He's like, I was nothing like Zach. I was quiet, and meaning, yeah, Zach was a douche. Like when you look back at Zach in this frame, this day and age, it's like, oh my god, how is he getting out? Like, what is
Exactly. Zach Morris was not.
Stone criminal.
Zach
Yeah.
Morris was not Eddie Haskell. Zach Morris was Bernie Madoff before Bernie Madoff.
He would be a senator today, no doubt.
Again,
All
go
right.
back and look, including Senator Rick Scott. Everything that's wrong in the world is traceable back to Zach Morris.
All right, Professor.
Again,
Excellent
all you got to do is look
presentation
at the
as
cell
always.
phones. Who started the cell phone
Look-
culture? Zach freaking Morris did.
I remember those brick phones, man. And the bill that you would talk for like a split second. We used to carry a beeper so that you could check and see who called you. Because if it wasn't important enough, you would go to a payphone. Believe it or not, just to save the bread on the cell phone. Those it was like $8 a minute. Ridiculous rates. All right, Professor. Always good stuff. We'll see you. I believe I sent you the thing, or are they sending it to you
I got it.
directly
Yeah,
now
I
for
got
the?
it. I got it from both
Okay.
actually.
Very nice. And we make sure you're on the show. That's coming up on nofilter.net. Barry your bookie with the professor. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. Professor, thanks so much as always for being with us. We will see you guys next time as we leave. You know that.
Oh, Jesus. You're quick.
Oh, there you go. Time. Ditch the professor. He's got some new weed, no?
I don't know. That was amazing.
I
I don't know where he pulled that out from, but at least the Zach Mertz when he's spot on. Like when you look back at him in today's framing, he was a total piece of work.
Belichick stuff. I mean, the conspiracy theory that it's all going to set up for Belichick and Brady to
I mean,
go in the
that's
same
not
year.
true at all, but it's funny.
Created by the National
It
Football
makes
League.
sense. I mean, if you think about it, like no one ever does talk about the Hall of Fame stuff, and we're talking about it more the last 4 days than we ever have.
No one talks about that Asian sponge.
No, that's the thing that Ken brought up, and he's right. Like they show Kraft and they talk about him like he's this hero, and it's like he's the one dude that was involved in actual crime, like literal crime, and they never talk about it. It's so weird. Like whatever Belichick did, it wasn't that.
Wasn't it like Jeff Saturday or somebody that I don't know why it would have been him, right? He wasn't a Patriot. Jeff Saturday, wasn't he a Colt? Yeah. But he was head of the players union or something, and what was it then? On behalf of them, they were, sympathizing and empathizing with Bob Kraft after the passing of his wife, who was so integral and important to the success of the franchise and the overall success of the National Football League. And like a day later, he was banging some chick that was younger than Jordan Hudson. And I always find that a little strange. No, don't you, Lubie? I mean, not that the man couldn't have somehow instantly gotten over his grief, but I mean, everybody was shattered that this woman had passed away.
Think about it. She was the mom of the Patriots.
He was already, with somebody else, like a second later.
Well, that's where he did where he was doing the videos. Where he was like helping her out.
They hadn't even infused the embalming fluid yet. The woman was still like, just an aging corpse there for a second, and then Kraft's already like making out with some other chick. Unbelievable. All right, we're going to get out of here. Thanks so much for being with us. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. We'll see you next time on a Monday. And, I think we did a decent job of fluffing over the Super Bowl non-week.
Very true. We talked Super Bowl and got into other things. We'll see if Giannis is a heat or a dub.
What do you think, man? Is that actually going to happen this week?
I don't know. To me, I think if you get the most stuff usually around trade deadline, right? Because teams are desperate, this and that. Like,
but there are advantages with these cockamamie bird rule extrapolations to waiting till the end.
And the Heat can also offer 2 more picks. So for the Heat, they're okay. Like it's weird because I think the East is and if the Heat can get Giannis now for the packages they're offering, they would have a lot left. So I think they would run through the East. So if you're the Heat, it's like, do we? And again, Giannis would be a year old.
Giannis is out too for I think a couple of more weeks.
Giannis is a year older. Tatum's not there this year. He'll be back next year, and he'll be playing with reckless abandon, like revenge and all that. Like, so do you really want to wait? So the Heat, to me, it's in their best interest to try and push it. But again, if you're the Bucks, what do you care? You're bad either way. So yeah, I'm curious. I don't know what'll happen. I'm just joking. Like people keep talking about it, like from both fan bases, like it's happening tomorrow. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right. We'll see. All right, Lubie, you be good, man. People will see you next time as we leave. You know that. I didn't do that already. It's 9:13.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my